Hello, this is the Bible K through 12. This is grade 6, part C, and it is a continuation of part C. The last time I was talking about fundamentalism, and I was talking about what is good and what is bad about fundamentalism. Good in the sense that it honors God and it affirms the Bible, the truth of the Bible. What is bad about it? It is bad in the sense of what I call a trap that people can get into because they believe that they can use reason as a foundation for their faith. Reason is a great thing. It is a gift from God, I believe. It is that capacity that we have to think things through, to use logic, to identify important elements of an argument and so forth and so on. But when fundamentalism is dealing with, for example, creation and evolution, and it seeks to use reason as the foundation of all that goes beyond that, especially when it uses reason as a foundation for faith. I can demonstrate this, I can just demonstrate that, I can prove this, I can prove that. This is a foundation, and on that foundation, then I can believe. The problem with that is that, first of all, it's only as strong as the weakest part of the argument. As soon as that weak part gets identified, it can lead to collapse, not just of the argument, but of faith that has been built upon it. Now, in the book of 1 Corinthians, in chapter 3, there is a foundation that is talked about. In chapter 3 of 1 Corinthians, verse 11, it says, "There can be no other foundation laid but that which has been laid, and that is Jesus Christ." Now, I realize that I'm getting way ahead of the game. We haven't gotten even to the beginnings of the New Testament, but for the sake of this particular set of discussion about creation and evolution and so forth, we've kind of gone far afield and need to make this statement. Our faith is built on Jesus Christ and not on our ability to make a good argument, not on our ability to prove something right or wrong. Our faith is built on the fact that Jesus Christ has come into the world and all that he has done and accomplished. And we need always to keep that uppermost in our minds and in our hearts. And we need to realize that when we try to lay some other kind of foundation that seems good, that seems wise, that seems like it's all together and could be helpful, but it doesn't recognize Jesus as the foundation, then it is a fallacy from the very start. So we need to keep that in our minds. We need to recognize that in addition to this, using reason and so forth sometimes does not recognize how big the issue is, how great the project is. It's not necessarily that we should not attempt the project. We shouldn't just throw up our hands and say, oh, it's just too much for me. You know, that's not the point. But we need to recognize that if we develop some small argument or some just make some small discovery, it may seem big to us, but when you look at the big picture of science and biology and all the various research that's been done over 100 years and more, then it's a big project, and you're not going to get it solved in a short period of time. Some people who are dedicated to this whole issue, from the viewpoint of establishing creation, devote their life to it. So recognize how big the issue is. Now, one of the failings, if you will, one of the bad points of creationism, and it's not just creationism, but it's been the response to fundamentalism and so forth, it is the fact that there has been what we call the culture wars. And these have gotten into politics and so forth. You know, they're trying to steal Christmas and all of these things, and they're not closely related, but there is a connection between what is understood to be fundamentalism and the culture wars. Now again, it's not that we should not engage the culture. It's not that we should just go hide in a cocoon and just say, go away world, we're gonna do our thing right here. In fact, that's what many people would like Christians to do. But on the other hand, when it becomes a war, you see, then the whole situation sort of takes a turn for the worse, you might say. There's not an element of respect. There's not an element of love. And so fundamentalism has had a hand in, you might say, creating these culture wars. Certainly, those people that disdain the Bible and have no respect for Christians or other religions, and who exalt science almost to the point of being God, they have contributed, certainly, to the war, if you want to call it that. But it seems to me, as Christians, we should be peacemakers. Jesus said we're blessed when we're peacemakers. So we can make our arguments, we can make our stand, we can be bold in a kind and good-hearted kind of way, and not contribute to the war, so to speak. Now, I would like to offer to that person who feels threatened, that person who feels fearful, that person who feels intimidated, that person who feels uh, uh, angry, dejected, whatever kind of feeling may be going on in your heart with respect to all of these issues. I would just like to offer a few words of advice. They're for what they're worth. You can take them or leave them. Number one, relax. Take a deep breath. Recognize all that you have as a Christian. If that is your position, that is who you are. And even if you're not a Christian, relax. Let's not get all uptight and worked up about this. Relax. And if you are a Christian, trust in the Lord. Not in your own wisdom, not in some book that you've read last week, but in the Lord. That's your mainstay. That is your high tower. That is your shield and buckler. Trust in the Lord. Don't be threatened. This concept of being threatened is kind of a psychological condition. It is not just simply what the other person is doing, but it's your response to what they're doing. When you begin to feel that you're getting just pushed in and surrounded, and you can't get out, and you feel threatened, don't be that way. Recognize, hey, I'm okay. There's another day tomorrow, and there's plenty of other things to give me joy and peace, and so don't be threatened. And then, other side of that coin, don't be a threat. Don't be that person that people dread when they see them coming. Here comes so and so. Oh boy. Well, hide your science books. Uh, just stay calm, because here he comes or here she comes, and it's going to be, what to pay. So don't be that way. Don't be a threat. Again, stay out of the war. Be a conscientious objector to getting so heavily involved in this that it becomes a war, if that's possible. Avoid self-exaltation and pride. You may be a brilliant person. You may have studied extensively. You may know a whole lot of stuff. That's good. That's great. Keep it up. But don't let that puff you up, make you think that you can demolish every argument, that you are so you've got it all together and people need to listen to you. No. Avoid that. That's not biblical. That's not the spirit of Jesus. Avoid self-exaltation and pride. And as I mentioned earlier, realize how big the project is. And don't get all worked up because of one particular little argument or one particular little scientific fact. it's a big project, and realize that. Finally, just not exactly in line with these other pieces of advice, but I would recommend the article in Wikipedia on creationism. Now, a couple of things. First of all, I realize some people have no respect for Wikipedia, either from an intellectual standpoint or perhaps from a religious standpoint. And keep in mind that I'm recommending this for the information that you find there, not necessarily affirming everything that's said in that article. But there is a lot of information. It can give you a better idea of how various people have approached this issue. So some people have kind of gone straight ahead, straight on, blunt force trauma, dealing with the scientific issues and seeking to dismantle what they believe is detrimental and so forth. But other people have approached the whole issue from a very different standpoint. Some people have not so much tried to prove creation as they have sought to demonstrate the presence of a mind, a designer. And so it's often called the argument from design. And there is a parable that someone told years ago about a person who found a watch. It wasn't a wristwatch, it was a pocket watch. And this person examined this watch carefully and looked at all the intricacies and realized it was a timepiece, and realized that this didn't just happen. It was designed. There was a mind behind this watch. And so it was called the watchmaker's watch. And that's kind of behind or underneath this whole idea of the argument from design. Now, again, that's just one approach. There is a more philosophical and reasoning approach, not seeking to look up every detail of science, but rather just sort of armchair type thinking. And the old argument, again, sort of on the same line, but saying, evolution is sort of like saying that if you put enough monkeys at enough typewriters playing with the typewriter for days, eventually you'll get Shakespeare. And so that's an armchair kind of argument. Lots of other ways. And so as you read this article, you get some concept of that, not everything, but you'll get maybe a better perspective on the whole issue. I have not solved anything. I have not helped you perhaps in a way that you would like me to help you, to just demolish other arguments and so forth. My goal has been to help you think through these things and kind of get a little firmer footing. Again, my thanks to you for your patience with me, for your generous time that you have expended watching this video and other videos. and I hope that you will watch the next one as you have the opportunity. Thank you.